Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has just absolutely laid down the hammer. And so I'll tell you what, right now, all of the globalists and countries around the world that have spent decades ripping off the American economy are absolutely panicking. You see, as many of you know, President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, which kicked in on April 2nd, just a couple months ago, are already shattering national records, generating a massive $255 billion in annual revenue. But even so, for months now, President Trump has generously granted various negotiation extensions to numerous countries worldwide, giving them a chance to strike brand new fair trade deals with the U.S. without being hit by the full force of President Trump's tariffs. But now, after all of that stalling and bad faith dragging of feet, it has become abundantly clear that many of these countries never intended to negotiate honestly, and so now President Trump is dropping the hammer big time. The truth is, almost every nation around the world got so used to exploiting the American economy at our taxpayers' expense that they can't even believe that finally we're standing up for ourselves. And so this is why President Trump just dropped 22 massive new tariffs on some of the biggest global economic offenders. And as we'll talk about here in just a couple minutes, these brand new tariffs are specifically designed to target the anti-American BRICS economic alliance. But I'll tell you what, here's the wildest thing about all of this. Despite the left-wing fearmongers screaming that President Trump's tariffs are going to spike inflation and destroy the economy, inflation hasn't risen one bit. In fact, the economy is absolutely on fire in a way that we haven't seen here at home in decades. In fact, it doesn't even really matter what economic metric you look at. The truth is, every single one of them confirms that President Trump's economic policies have absolutely ignited the dead economy that he inherited from sleepy Joe Biden and all of the far-left Democrats. And actually, on that note, take a look at this recent clip from CNBC.
Look how much we've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers. And they have gone up a lot. June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue. So far, guys, $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot, especially we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The truth is, President Trump's tariffs are an absolute goldmine, and as it would turn out, all of the experts have been proven wrong yet again. But now, folks, before we keep on moving on, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out. Just yesterday afternoon, President Trump posted on Truth Social, a new study by the Council of Economic Advisors led by the highly respected chair, Dr. Stephen Moran, has found that tariffs have had absolutely zero impact on inflation. In fact, the study shows that import prices are actually dropping, just like I always said they would. The fake news and the so-called experts were wrong yet again. Tariffs are making our country boom. Many new factories, jobs, and trillions of dollars in investments are pouring into the USA. Someone should show this new study to Too Late Jerome Powell, who has been whining like a baby about non-existent inflation for months and refusing to do the right thing. Cut interest rates, Jerome. Now is the time. And you know what, folks? President Trump here is absolutely spot on. The reality is, his Liberation Day tariffs are driving a manufacturing renaissance, creating factories, jobs, and trillions of investments flooding into the United States. And even more than that, in the last couple of months, President Trump has been able to cut our monthly trade deficit in half, reshaping the global economy to finally benefit us Americans living here in America. And so this is why President Trump right now is ramping up pressure on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who has been actively sabotaging our ongoing economic revitalization by refusing to lower interest rates. But you know what? At this point, take a look at what the director of the National Economic Council, a guy named Kevin Hassett, had to say about why President Trump's economic policies are working so well. Let it play.
I just would disagree with the premise of your question in the following sense, that there are a lot of economists, Harvard-trained economist Steve Myron, the CEA chair, who put out the report today, who understood all along that the tariff story, that it's going to cause inflation, is not true. And to be fair, I've been on Fox and other networks all the way since January 20th explaining why the tariffs are not going to cause inflation. And now it's in the data that they're not causing inflation. In fact, import prices are going down. So inflation right now is lower than it's been by every measure in more than 4 years, and tariff revenue is through the roof. And so things are working that way, and then let's talk about the economics of why. First, they're working that way because the foreign people who've been dumping products into our country forever and ever, have been doing that regardless of other conditions because they're creating jobs, say, in China by selling stuff to the U.S. And so and President Trump's intuition is we could put a tariff on them and they'll just eat the cost. And that's what we're seeing. But the second thing that we're seeing is, so why is it that prices are even going down for imported goods? It's because President Trump has highlighted how important it is for all of us to believe in an America First agenda. And America First means that if you buy American products, then you're helping yourself by getting a better product, but you're also helping American communities for the people who make those products. And so I think that the demand for imported goods has gone down because the president has convinced people of the benefits of buying American.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Everything he just said is absolutely true. The reality is, President Trump's tariffs have effectively created this ongoing American economic renaissance, as opposed to hurting the American economy like all of the globalists said they would. And now, as we said earlier, this new set of 22 tariffs that President Trump just rolled out, they are designed to kneecap the BRICS alliance, which is hellbent on undermining American strength and subverting the US dollar. Folks, here's the truth. The globalists, as well as all of these foreign countries that have been preying on our American weakness for decades now, are absolutely panicking because President Trump's America First agenda is finally putting an end to their free ride. So really, when you stop and think about it, this isn't just a brand new economic policy, no. Really, this is President Trump putting America back on top where we belong. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but hey, in my personal opinion, this is what it looks like to finally put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.